The storm that night was so heavy that police believed it had destroyed every clue. The victim was lying in a parking lot. No witnesses, no footprints, no weapon. The rain had washed everything away. But what investigators didn't realize was that the rain had actually left behind the one piece of evidence that would expose the killer. It was just after 11:40 p.m. when police received a call from a night security guard in Riverside Plaza, a quiet commercial complex outside Seattle. A man had been found lying face down in the parking lot during a violent rainstorm. By the time officers arrived, the rain was pouring so heavily that visibility was barely a few feet. The victim was quickly identified as Marcus Hale, a 46-year-old real estate developer known for handling multi-million-dollar property deals. At first glance, the case looked like a robbery gone wrong. Marcus had been shot once, his wallet was missing, and the storm had already destroyed most of the physical evidence. Detectives believed the rain had erased any footprints or tire tracks that might have been left behind. But Detective Sarah Lin, who arrived shortly after midnight, wasn't convinced. Something about the scene didn't feel random, a detail no one noticed. While officers began securing the area, Sarah slowly walked across the wet parking lot. Her flashlight reflected off the water covering the asphalt. That was when she noticed something unusual. The rainwater wasn't flowing evenly across the ground. Instead, it was collecting in narrow grooves in the pavement. At first, it looked like nothing, just cracks in the asphalt. But when Sarah stepped back and looked again, the shapes began to form letters, faint but unmistakable. Sarah crouched down and shined her flashlight across the pavement. The rainwater had filled several thin scratches on the ground. Together, they formed a word, a name. Daniel. For a moment she thought it might be coincidence, random damage in the pavement. But the letters were too clear, too deliberate. Someone had scratched that name into the asphalt, and the rain had revealed it. Back at the station, detectives began digging into Marcus Hale's business connections. It didn't take long to find someone named Daniel Carter. He was Marcus Hale's longtime business partner. The two had built a real estate development company together nearly a decade earlier. But recently, their partnership had begun to collapse. Financial records revealed something troubling. Millions of dollars had disappeared from company accounts, and both men had accused each other of fraud. The partnership was on the verge of a very public lawsuit. When police questioned Daniel Carter, he appeared calm. Too calm. He insisted he had been home all evening. But investigators had already pulled security footage from nearby traffic cameras. At 11:22 p.m., Daniel's car was seen entering Riverside Plaza, exactly 18 minutes before Marcus Hale was found dead. When confronted with the footage, Daniel's story began to change. But the strongest evidence was still waiting. Forensic investigators returned to the parking lot the next morning. The rain had stopped. The grooves in the pavement were now barely visible. But when they examined them closely, they discovered something remarkable. The scratches forming the name Daniel had been made recently, within the last few hours. Investigators realized what had happened. Marcus Hale had written the name himself, using a small metal key, while he was dying. The truth revealed. When detectives presented the evidence, Daniel Carter finally broke. He confessed. The two men had argued in the parking lot about the missing money. The argument escalated, and Daniel pulled a gun. After the shot was fired, Marcus collapsed. But before he died, he used the only thing he had left, his car key. With his last strength, Marcus scratched the name of his killer into the pavement. The rain almost erased it, but instead, it revealed the truth. Detective Sarah Lin would later say something that stayed with everyone who worked the case.
Sometimes the loudest evidence doesn't come from witnesses or cameras. Sometimes the truth is left behind in silence, waiting for someone to notice.
And that night, in the middle of a storm,